And part of this is having control over gold markets. And that is why, it's one very good reason why anyway, that now that she, is de facto controls the physical gold market, she now wants to take away, if you like, the paper control. Yeah, I think, for a long time, China has had the view that the paper currencies of the West would eventually go to zero. This, if you like, stems from the Marxist universities who, in China, who basically condemned capitalism, reckoned that capitalism would destroy itself. And indeed, Marx himself saw capitalism as being, if you like, no more than a stepping stone to the final, his final nirvana, as it were, of a world which is controlled by the state, in effect, on behalf of the workers rather than by the bourgeois.
Of course, on behalf of the workers, always.
Absolutely. So, China started off with this, when Mao Zedong died, this thought, if you like, was behind the appointment of the People's Bank of China to act not only for all the foreign exchange transactions, along with the SAFE fund, which is sort of seen as a sovereign wealth fund, which is underneath the control of the People's Bank of China. But also in 1983, regulations were produced by the Communist Party appointing the People's Bank with sole control over the nation's gold and silver programs. And it was clear that with that big bear market that we had between 1980 and, this started in 1983, in effect, between then and the year 2000, 2002, there was a lot of gold coming out on the market. These were the conditions under which the People's Bank of China was able to accumulate substantial, undeclared quantities of gold bullion. By 2002, obviously the People's Bank of China and the Communist Party reckoned that they had got enough gold to secure their currency in the future. And so at that stage, they opened the Shanghai Gold Exchange and allowed ordinary Chinese citizens to accumulate gold. Until then, they'd been banned from owning it completely. Since then, Chinese nationals have taken delivery out of the vaults, the SGE's vaults, of around about 27,000 tons. Now, some of that would have probably gone back in as scrap, because anything which is resubmitted to the vaults, if you like, is scrapped and then recast. But on top of that, there is quite a lot of gold which is actually owned by banks and also ETFs and other investment funds, which are stored within the Shanghai Gold Exchange's vaulting system. So, we're looking at very substantial quantities of gold. And I reckon that by 2002, I reckon the state had probably accumulated around about 20,000 tons of gold. And also bear in mind that they invested a lot of time and effort into both refining gold and also mining gold. And they quite rapidly became the largest gold mining nation in the world. And have held that position for, 15 years now? It must be about 15 years. So, and the other thing is, of course, we've seen gold go from the west to the east. I mean, this was, a story which is that's 20 years old, that story now. So there's an awful lot of gold has gone into China. And not only that, but nothing comes out of China. I've spoken with directors of the Swiss refiners, asked if they ever see any Chinese refined bars, and the answer basically is no. There was a report of a few bars turning up, and it was thought that those were smuggled out. But, basically it's Hotel California for gold. So there's an awful lot of gold, both owned by the state and also owned, and not declared as reserves, incidentally, owned by the state and also owned by Chinese nationals. So how much it comes to, I really don't know. But you can see that China has a huge interest in the price of gold, if you like, and she has a huge disinterest in the dollar. So really what she's trying to do is she's trying to run, with Russia and Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS, all these parties, she's sort of, if you like, dividing a world into a sort of schism between East and West. And the one thing she wants, if you like, is control over the settlement means for all the commodities she buys, the things that she imports and the things that she exports. And so she wants to do away with the dollar. And part of this is having control over gold markets. And that is why, it's one very good reason why anyway, that now that she, is de facto controls the physical gold market, she now wants to take away, if you like, the paper control, which is very, very much a dollar story. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, if we go back to what the Marxist universities taught, the Chinese students about how capitalism would destroy itself. Well, obviously, if it destroys itself, the currencies get destroyed, particularly if they're not attached to gold. In other words, if they're just fiat currencies, they will go down the Swanee River as well as capitalism. Now, we can see the conditions whereby this is now going to happen to the dollar. Now, I think as far as the Chinese are concerned, they've expected this. This doesn't surprise them at all. But the election of President Trump, as far as the Chinese are concerned, is accelerating the process of the death of the dollar, simply because he's a spendthrift. We've got that big, beautiful bill going through at the moment, which will probably add, take that budget deficit up to something like 2.5–3 trillion. You've got an economy which, really, when all is said and done, is not behaving very well. It's probably in recession, and it is particularly in recession if you take out government spending. In other words, it's only government spending, unfunded government spending, which is actually giving the illusion of an economy which is growing. Take that out, and you've got a contracting economy. And it's been like that for a few years now. Now, this matters because of all the debt which has got to be funded. And you're going to see interest rates rise. And this is why at the long end of the US Treasury market, nobody can really raise anything out of it. I mean, the government has auctions, and they sort of continually disappoint or fail or whatever. So foreign investment, if you like, in dollars, they've got too many dollars. They don't want to have any more. If anything, they want to sell some. They want to reduce their exposure to the dollar. And it's not just China. Most of the countries, if you like, in the sort of Russia camp, see the dollar as a weaponized currency. They would rather not have, if you like, the risk that the dollar exposes them to. So you can see that the dollar is on a very slippery slope. And of course, this is why gold is rising. It's not so much gold rising, it's the dollar going down. But as far as China is concerned, they need to protect their own currency from a collapse of the dollar, which is becoming more imminent. And I think that informs their recent moves, which basically are they've said that they will open, or at least the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which is completely under the control, incidentally, of the People's Bank of China. They've said that they will open a vault in Hong Kong, and they have also said that they will open a vault in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, why? Because Saudi exports a lot of oil to China. Saudis want to be able to trade yuan for gold and gold for yuan. Quite obviously, because of their trade. And I think you may well see other ones, other vaults being opened. This is all part of the internationalization of the yuan. And then only last week or 8 days ago or whatever, it was announced by the Shanghai Futures Exchange that they would open up the futures exchange in Shanghai to foreign participation. Now, a foreign bank can deal on the Shanghai Futures Exchange at the moment, but it has to do it through a Chinese entity. That is all going to go. So, and this is obviously not just gold and silver, it's also base metals. There was the nickel problem, if you like, in London when a whole load of trades had to be cancelled by the London Metal Exchange. That was a bit over a year ago now. So they want to take control over all this, if you like, at least to their advantage. Now, I think that one of the points behind the internationalization, if you like, the mobilization of gold as part of a trading situation, if you like. I mean, trading not fixed at this stage to the yuan, but obviously trading alongside the yuan at some stage. When the dollar really does start collapsing, I think you will find the Chinese are in a position to immediately announce a fixed exchange rate between the yuan and gold in order to stop their own currency sliding along with the Western currencies led by the dollar. So I think this is all after President Trump's Liberation Day. I mean, bear in mind that the reaction from the Chinese was uncharacteristically quick. The first announcement that came out was that they were going to speed up the negotiations for a free trade agreement between China, Japan, and South Korea. And then this was rapidly followed by President Xi visiting some of the leading ASEAN nations, which are basically the other nations, if you like, in Asia, in Eastern Asia. I mean, I think I can't remember. He went to Myanmar, he went to Vietnam, he went to Malaysia rather, and I think he went to Thailand as well. So now this was quick. Now I'm fairly sure that the conversations that he was having was really about very quickly establishing a plan B, if you like, when America, started raising all these tariffs, this tit for tat tariff sort of thing. China needed to protect herself. She needed to secure her regional market, if you like, and that's what that was all about. And so this move on gold, I think, is in some senses an extension of that. And I'm sure that President Xi would have said to some of the leaders in these ASEAN nations, we're quite happy to sponsor a gold vault so that we can trade in yuan and we can trade in gold, whatever you like. I mean, this would be particularly one of the countries he went to was Vietnam. Now, the Vietnamese do use gold for ordinary settlement. I mean, you buy a house in Vietnam, you use gold. So, you can see the links, if you like. I may be joining the dots too much, but to my mind, it is actually quite clear that there is a new world out there which we are not involved with, and it is based on Chinese yuan. That will become the principal currency replacing the dollar, and at some stage it will be guaranteed by gold, and that I think is very, very important to understand.